The distant planet of Volterra had long been a peaceful world. Its people, the Volteri, were an advanced species that had never known war. They lived in harmony with their environment, crafting technology that bent nature to their will. But peace had a price, and for the Volteri, that price was weakness. For centuries, their world had been a target for raiders. These invaders were ruthless, always looking for easy prey, and for the Volteri, who had never fought a battle, the only defense was retreat. They fled every time, their technology no match for the brutal strength of the attackers. It was on one such occasion that young Lyra, a Volteri girl, found herself in the clutches of one of these invaders. She had been exploring the forest, gathering medicinal plants, when a ship appeared from the sky. It was a dark, menacing craft far larger than anything the Volteri had ever seen. The invaders, humanoid and covered in armor, landed and attacked. Lyra tried to run, but she was too slow. They captured her, dragging her aboard their ship without a second thought. For weeks, Lyra was held in a cold metal cage. The invaders didn't care for her, seeing her only as a prize to be traded or tortured for sport. She tried to communicate, to plead for her freedom, but the invaders didn't understand her language. All she could do was wait and hope. One day, everything changed. The invaders' ship shook violently, alarms blaring through the halls. Lyra's heart raced as she heard the sounds of battle. She knew something was happening. The ship rocked again, and then a voice came over the intercom, speaking in a language Lyra didn't recognize, but there was a tone of urgency in it. Outside her cage, the sounds of struggle grew louder, a series of loud bangs followed by a series of explosions. The ship was under attack. Lyra peered through the bars of her cage, her heart pounding in her chest. The invaders scrambled, running to their stations, but they were outmatched. It wasn't the Volteri who were attacking them. It was another force entirely. From the way they fought, Lyra could tell these attackers were humans. She had heard stories of humans, horrifying tales told in whispers by the older Volteri. The humans were called Bloodthirsty by the Volteri, their reputation as fierce and violent warriors spreading across the stars. Lyra had never believed the stories, but now she realized they were true. The human attackers stormed the ship, cutting down invader after invader with brutal precision. They didn't hesitate, didn't show mercy. Lyra watched, awestruck and terrified, as the humans fought with a savage ferocity she had never seen before. Their weapons were simple but effective, guns that fired with deadly accuracy, blades that sliced through armor like it was paper. It wasn't long before the human soldiers reached Lyra's cage. She backed away, afraid they would treat her just as the invaders had. But the humans didn't attack. Instead, one of them, an older man with graying hair and a scar across his cheek, approached her cage and looked at her with curiosity. He spoke in a language Lyra couldn't understand, but there was a softness to his voice that reassured her. He tapped a button on the side of the cage, and it opened with a soft hiss. Lyra stepped out, unsure whether to run or stay. The human man didn't make a move to grab her. Instead, he gestured for her to follow him, his eyes scanning the area for danger. "Come on," he said in broken Volteri, his accent thick. "You're safe now." Lyra hesitated but then realized that this was her chance. The humans weren't like the invaders. They were saving her. She had heard enough to know that humans, despite their brutal reputation, were often defenders of those weaker than themselves. The human soldiers, though still fighting, kept a protective perimeter around Lyra. The older man led her toward an escape pod, and as they ran, Lyra couldn't help but wonder, why were they helping her? What did they want? As they reached the pod, the man stopped and looked down at her. His face was hard, but there was something kind in his eyes. "You're not alone anymore," he said softly. "We won't leave you behind." Without waiting for an answer, he pushed her into the pod, locking the door behind her. The pod launched into space, and Lyra watched as the human ship slowly pulled away from the invaders' vessel. The humans had won. Hours passed, and Lyra found herself aboard the human ship. It was a strange, metallic world, far different from the peaceful environment of Volterra. The walls hummed with machinery, and the air smelled of oil and metal, but there was something about it that felt safe. She was brought to a small room where the older human man waited for her. This time he smiled at her. "Welcome aboard," he said, his voice gruff but kind. Lyra didn't know what to say. The humans had saved her, but why? They were known to be ruthless, to destroy those who crossed them, but they had protected her. The bloodthirsty humans, as her people called them, had shown mercy to her. The man noticed her confusion and sat down across from her. "We're not all the same," he said, sensing her thoughts. "Some of us fight for survival, for what's right. Others, well, they fight for power. You've seen the difference." Lyra nodded slowly. She had seen the humans' strength, their power, but she had also seen their willingness to protect. She wasn't sure she could ever understand them fully, but she felt something new, respect. "We're not all bloodthirsty," the man continued, giving her a serious look. "Sometimes we fight because there's no other choice, but we also fight for the innocent." Lyra looked at him, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel helpless. The humans had shown her a new side of strength, the strength to protect, to fight not just for victory, but for the survival of others. And in that moment, Lyra knew one thing for sure. The humans, despite their reputation, had saved her, and she would never forget it. The end.